Things are getting crazy out here when it comes down to some of these prices that we've been seeing. You look at the Xbox platform, and essentially it's been a tanking platform for a number of years now. Microsoft has done multiple price increases across the board. If you're looking at the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X, multiple price hikes when it comes to the system itself, accessories. They tried to do games, didn't get away with that. They circled back around to plan B, and that was increasing the price of Xbox Game Pass again, because they already increased it one time before. Microsoft was always seen as the consumer-friendly brand. We kind of got that out there because of Xbox Game Pass. People like myself were saying, you know what, it's not necessarily sustainable to have Xbox Game Pass, especially when you're buying all of these different companies for billions of dollars. There's no way they're going to be able to keep it at $18 or $20. They're going to have to keep on raising the price of this service because there's no way they're going to be able to offer Call of Duty and all of these blockbuster games for the price that they had it at. And guess what happened? They just announced a price increase, which got so many people online to cancel their subscription, and now people are talking about it. Various different videos are being posted and everything. That equates to, if you want the best tier of Game Pass, to $360 a year, which almost kind of gets into the territory of just buying the games outright and just enjoying the games in the little amount of free time that most adults have. Now, before, and why I'm kind of tying this back to the Nintendo Switch 2 and kind of what's going on, there was a lot of chatter earlier in the year about the price of the system, about $80 Mario Kart, and if it's worth it or not. And I talked about this, how prices are going up across the board. It's one of those things to where ultimately, at the end of the day, when all the dust is settled, Nintendo Switch 2 might be the budget option overall for the newer platforms. And guess what's happened since I've been saying that? We've got a price hike on the PlayStation hardware as well, in addition to Xbox, plus the Xbox ROG Ally prices, which are $600 to $1,000. A GPD win that is upwards of $2,000 plus. Lenovo Legion Go 2 that is upwards of $1,500 to like $1,000. Like, it is insane, some of the prices here. And if you look at all of that, Nintendo kind of comes out with this little tiny box, but packs a punch overall, being able to play a lot of modern AAA type of games like Resident Evil Requiem, for example, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and we've already seen a current generation game like Star Wars Outlaws run better than what it runs on the Xbox Series S. So while you're not going to get top of the line best Xbox Series X performance or PC or PS5 Pro or even PS5, you're still going to get something that you can play anywhere that you want. And when it comes down to it, a consistent flow of great games. And in the free time that you do have, you can pick and choose some of those premium games that you do want to play and enjoy it that way, along with actually getting some cool deals on the eShop and things. Now, listen, guys, Switch 2 is not perfect, and this is not a super glazed Switch 2 when it comes down to it. But I have to be honest in terms of my evaluation as somebody who's been playing Xbox for decades. Since day one, I was there with Xbox, the original, the OG, playing Halo on there. I've been there all throughout. I have every single main Xbox platform. I have every single main PlayStation platform. And of course, I have every single main Nintendo platform overall. And if you're looking at the economics, and if you're looking at what's been happening here with this, clearly Microsoft is giving up when it comes to actually gaining market share, when it comes to getting new people to join in. They have a different plan. It's very clear here. The plan is to essentially get the most out of the small hardcore base of die-hard Xbox fans and then sell games just like everyone else. And this is something that people got mad at when I talked about, whether it was the Spawncast or even sometimes on my own channel here, saying, listen, it's great that Microsoft decides that they want to put everything on Game Pass day one for $20 or $30 or whatever the case is, not at this point, but that's not a sustainable business model if you want to keep all your developers, if you want to keep consistent flow of games going. There's just not going to be enough to satisfy not only the developers and pay them all, but also the executives, in addition to the shareholders and the fact that you're running a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It's just not going to be there if you don't have Netflix style subscription numbers, if you're not 50, 60, 70, 80, even up to 100 million people on this service. You're not going to be able to appease everyone, and changes will be brought regardless of how Phil Spencer or these people feel, because it's going to come from the top of the top. It's going to come from the CEO of Microsoft. It's going to come from the board members that have huge play on what is happening. So that's why I think at this point, you should buy a Nintendo Switch 2 now, man. I think that now is the perfect time if you haven't gotten one. Yes, you have the Nintendo Switch Online. People have talked about whether if that's a good service or not. Definitely not perfect. There's some things that they can do better. I'd like to see them actually increase the amount of classic games that are released. I'd like there to be a somewhat schedule in terms of when stuff is happening. And I think that there's other things that they can do. But I do feel over the last number of years, it's gotten dramatically better. Adding in GameCube didn't increase the price on that. You have Super Nintendo, you have NES, you have N64, you got GBA, you've got all sorts of different platforms here that you can play, and all of them have built-in online play with your friends. So if it was a local co-op game back in the day, well, now it turned into an online play game that you can play with your friends if you guys are all linked up there. Plus, it has the new game chat feature if you're on the Nintendo Switch 2, so you can have video chat and voice chat all right there, something that people have been asking for a very long time. And that's $50 a year for that one. If you want to get the basic model, it's $20 a year, so like $1 or so per a month overall. And yes, you don't get all of the stuff that Xbox does, the day one games and all of that. But if you're looking at it, once again, it's starting to get to the points where like, $360 a year for that, or do I just buy the select games that I really want to play and that I'll have time for and kind of get other stuff on discounts and sales and not have an eternal rental service? And that's essentially why I never truly fully bought into that. I always bought into when it comes to developers or when it comes to, like, let's just say Nintendo and Sony that have those big first party games, those big AAA titles, those big set piece games when it comes down to, hey, this is what our brand is, whether that's God of War, whether that is Ghost of Tsushima or now Ghost of Yotei coming out. You look at Mario, Zelda, Super Smash Brothers, stuff that I know that they're going to do. And even if you look at it this year with the games that are coming out, Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, already out when it comes down to that. Pokemon Legends ZA, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Kirby Air Riders, and Metroid Prime 4, all within 6 months, consistent flow, and you can pick and choose when you want to develop or when you want to put more time into a certain franchise or game. And then in the other times that you don't, there are third-party games that you can play. You can buy games on discount and sale. And like most of us, we go to work 7, 8, maybe even more hours per day, and our time to play games is completely different than what it was when you were a child. And maybe if something like Game Pass was around, for some of you guys, Game Pass might have been around when you were kids, but for me, it would have been great back then, but not at this point. I just don't have the time to sink 10,000 hours into a million different games that they drop on there every single year. I think that Xbox Game Pass is good if you are a diehard Xbox guy and you are not interested in playing games on PlayStation or the Nintendo Switch 2 this year. If you're not buying all of those, then it becomes great value if you know that you want to continue on with the service and continue to do that and not spend time in other places. Another reason why I haven't bought into that and kind of said, you know what, for me, Nintendo Switch 2 and PlayStation 5 Pro are going to be my mainstays after trying out PC, trying out Steam Decks, and trying out ROG Allies, and trying out that stuff and just saying, you know what, it's not for me. Trying out Game Pass a number of years ago, it's just not for me. But the biggest thing to me is, when you have that library, it's the psychological aspect of it. It kind of puts you in a trance or in a state to where this is my library, these are my games, but it's like I have to pay for that, because if I don't pay every single month, I'm going to lose all of these new big, huge games because I don't necessarily own them. I have to rent them every single month. So the psychological, I would say, chokehold that can have on some people, and for someone like me who grew up old school buying games and trying to scratch and claw just to get enough money to buy one Super Nintendo game or buy one Pokemon Stadium N64 game back in the day, $59.99, which is a lot more in today's day. It's one of those things to where I cherish that. I kind of look at the hard times and say, you know what, yeah, I couldn't play everything, but it was cool when I did. And at the same time, waiting for discounts, waiting for sales, and having a nice library of NES, Super Nintendo games, PS2 games, GameCube games, original Xbox games. And I kind of take that as I can still go back, grab those discs, and play those right now at this point. So for me, Even if you want to take it from a digital aspect, you can still go back and play those digital games. If you have the system and everything, you can go back and play your Wii games digital. You can play your Wii U games digital. You can still play all that. So having an eternal rental service never captured me. It never captured me and never got me to believe in what they were going to do. And just like what they can do when it comes to rental service, they can change the terms and conditions anytime that they want to where it puts pressure on you on what you're going to do overall. So for me, I said, you know what? This generation going on with the Nintendo Switch 2 coming up, I already kind of checked out when it comes to rental services and subscription services. I have Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack because it's really cheap in consideration compared to other things, but also does get you a lot of those classic games in order to play. And I have used it a bit. I'm not the biggest classic gamer out there, but with one of my live streams, we looked through it and it's actually quite a bit of games, great titles overall. Some of the all-time best games ever made are on there. So for me, I'd rather just roll with that. And then also just the big games that I know I'm excited to play, which I know for a fact that Nintendo is going to have a consistent flow of first-party games because they have announced more first-party games in the last 3 or 4 months since the Switch 2 launch than anybody else easily. They've announced double-digit 10+ games when it comes to big first-party titles. Yeah, it's one of those things to where I know I have confidence that they're going to do that because that is their way. That's how they sell the system. When you go away from trying to sell the system, when you don't do exclusives, you don't have that drive and push, I think that it just creates, I wouldn't say a lackadaisical attitude towards everything, but I do think it creates an attitude like, oh, well, we're just going to kind of do everything all digital, or we're going to just do Game Pass, or we're going to try to do multi-platform stuff. It makes a weird dichotomy. It doesn't make it to where there's synergy within the brand, to where you know what to expect when it comes to the big games and all of that. And I think that's where the Xbox brand, starting with Dom Matrick back in the Xbox One reveal and all of that, and of course pushed by Phil Spencer when it comes to Game Pass and going that type of route instead of doubling down and making sure that you get a great Perfect Dark in the Xbox One era, get a great Fable in the Xbox One era, get great multiple Halo games in the Xbox One era. They didn't do all that. They did not do all that, and I think that was the beginning of the downfall when they decided to just start buying up everything, and they had this grand vision for Game Pass that I never quite got on board with because of the potential pitfalls, because of the issues with ownership, because of the problems that I foresaw quite a bit ago. I just didn't think that having an eternal rental service and building my library and what I want to play with that around what Microsoft is doing and at their whim. So for me, I just said, you know what? I'd rather just take the time, get the big games that I know that are going to come from these companies like Nintendo and Sony overall, and I'll just go with that and I'll play those. And if there's something that I really want to play on Xbox when it comes to a first party game, I have no problem buying it. I have no problem trading in. If I don't have the money, I can trade in, I can wait, I can save up, I can do whatever I need to do when it comes down to it. But I never bought into that. So I think now is the perfect time when it comes down to it, especially with the prices, because Nintendo, once again, they could increase the price of the Nintendo Switch 2 because of tariffs and good old corporate greed, like people like to say. So I do think now would be the best time, now that we're seeing what happened already with PlayStation. We're seeing what happened with the Xbox ROG Ally, $600 to $1,000. You're seeing what's happening with other handheld hybrid type of systems, how they're pricing these things to be able to play modern games and all of that. It is not cheap overall, and you've got a system here that is $450, or it's $500 if you want a game like Pokemon Legends ZA with that bundle, or with Mario Kart World. So I think now would be the best time to jump into the Nintendo Switch atmosphere, Nintendo Switch 2, I would say, ecosystem with some great games, very different style than maybe what you see from the first party on Microsoft and Sony to a degree here and there. But in my opinion, I think offering some of the best content overall for what you're buying when it comes down to it. Once again, not perfect. There are definitely things that could be better when it comes to what Nintendo does. Some of the value, people talk about stuff like Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, but man, those games are going to be fantastic. I'm going to be playing it as well. So those games are fantastic, but I understand when it comes down to, I wish it was a bit cheaper on some of the games that they release as well. But once again, you are going to get incredible experiences overall that you can actually purchase and own and not have to worry about them saying, we're going to change the price down the line for your whole gaming library. library overall. Heck, even with Nintendo Switch Online, I mean, they could increase the price of that, but they have a $20 and a $50 tier, and it's just old games that are ROMs essentially that people just jack all the time anyway. So it's one of those things where it's like, if I have it, I have it. If I don't, I don't. But I can still get this if there's going to be some other stuff on there. I remember I used it for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pack. I know I used it as well with the Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack for the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild upgrades. You don't have to pay $10 for those. If you have the expansion pass, you actually just get those at no additional cost. So they are adding in other things, and I think that maybe eventually Mario Kart World could get like a season pass or could get something extra, and if you have the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, you won't have to pay for that additionally. So we'll see what they do in the future, but my bet is on saying that more people are just going to be drawn to the Nintendo Switch 2 at this point and be able to play high quality games anywhere that they want, and maybe have PC, maybe also have PlayStation 5, but it does seem like Xbox hardware, when it comes to them actually being competitive and trying to get in when it comes to market share, is essentially over, especially with these Xbox ROG Ally prices, 2 multiple price hikes on Xbox Series S and X, and now a price hike on what everyone said was the best value overall in gaming. Now that goes up way more than what it was before. So it's still something to where for people that actually spend their money on it and you're hardcore into Xbox, it's probably worth it. But for many other people, it's probably not going to be. So what do you guys think overall when it comes down to this? And my thoughts, I just kind of rambled off a bunch of different things here. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.